Salat and the 5 daily prayers which we do every day in our lives, which we are commanded to do by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These prayers are the pillar of our religion. It is the spiritual ascension when our souls manage to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whilst we stand, bow down and prostrate towards the Holy Kaaba in order to worship Him, in order to show our devotion and submission towards Him. And this salah is the first thing which we will be questioned about when we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and when we are questioned on the day of Qiyamah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran repeatedly and establish prayer and give zakah and bow down with those who bow in worship and in obedience as well. And we have narrations from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa himself who says that prayer is the building block of religion. Prayer is the foundation of your religious belief. You have to start with the prayer as its basic form, and then from there you can grow spiritually and gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He then tells us that if your salah is accepted by Allah, then all of your good deeds after that will be accepted by Allah. And if your salah is rejected, then all of your other deeds are rejected by Allah. And so salah or prayer is an audience with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is an audience with the person or the entity which created us. It is set at prescribed times during the day, and during this prayer time and during this action which you are doing, you should be fully absorbed in the experience of the salah. You should be fully committed and paying attention to the actions which you are doing. Why? Because this is a conversation between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where you are proving your submission and devotion to Him, your loyalty to Him. You should come out of the salah feeling as though you have had a spiritual refresher, as though you have gained closeness to your Lord. And you should come out of it with a peaceful and serene heart. Therefore, if our salah is accepted, then all of our other deeds will be accepted. And if our salah is not accepted, then all of the other deeds are rejected. So what is crucial is that the salah is accepted. And one of the things we need to establish today is the rules of the salah. The rules which dictate whether the salah is accepted or rejected. And there are very crucial and critical rules which we must follow when we're doing the salah. And it's important that everybody listens, especially the shabab who will be going into their ages where they have to perform the daily prayers every single day. And they should be aware of the necessary actions during the salah. But it's not just the shabab. Everyone in the room just now has to pay attention to this. Because, unfortunately, even when we did the salah just now, I have seen some people doing the salah wrong. Doing some actions which may make the salah invalid or incomplete, therefore not accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can't have any excuses for this. We can't come to Allah in the Day of Judgment and say to Him, well, I didn't do the salah properly because I didn't know. I just followed what my father did and what the people around me did. We have to learn. We have to know. And if we do learn and we do know, we will notice the beauty of the salah, and it will mean that inshallah it gets accepted by Allah. So, for the salah to be valid, there are certain conditions which you must adhere to. There are 9 or 10 of these, and we will go through each one of them one by one, and inshallah you learn just one thing. And if you realize that you have been doing the salah in a different way from what is mentioned, then you should think about this, go home, research it if you do not believe me, and inshallah you can tweak the salah so that inshallah it is accepted. The first part, and the most basic level of the salah, is the niyyah, having the intention. The intention for the salah should be that it is only performed for Allah Azza wa Jal and for Him alone. The salah should not be performed so that you can please your ego and the other people around you can see that you pray. The niyyah is not just something which you say for the sake of saying it. The niyyah has to be something within your heart, something within yourself, where you come to a realization that this act which you are about to do is for the sake of Allah, and that you are spending this short amount of time in complete submission to Him. Now when it comes to the niyyah, you do not need to say the niyyah out loud. The niyyah does not need to come out of your mouth. It doesn't need to even be whispered. As long as the niyyah is within your heart and you have the understanding that you are performing XYZ salah and you're doing XYZ rak'ah and you're doing it for Allah, then this is enough. The aqama is something which is highly mustahab. If somebody says the aqama, then after he does this, he should not, or he does not need to say the niyyah out loud. Once the aqama has been said, we should go straight into the takbir. And that leads us on to the next part, which is takbiratul ihram, meaning the opening takbir. When we start our prayer, we start it by saying Allahu Akbar whilst we are in a standing position, stationary, and the only thing which is moving is our lips, of course, and our hands up to our head. And this is the act which formally brings a person into the prayer, into the salah. And Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says that the key to the prayer is the purification. The entrance to the prayer is the takbir, and exiting the prayer is through the taslim. So the takbir is important. When it comes even to the first takbir, we see that some people are not doing it correctly. Is it correct if a person is ready to do the takbir? The aqama has been read, he has the niyyah, and he goes like this. Allahu Akbar. It's not the best way to do it. It's not the correct way we should have been told. The correct way is as the hands start to go up, we say Allahu Akbar, and then we go down. This is the correct way which has been narrated to us from the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, and the correct way to do it. And it is what is our scholars in today's world tell us as well is the correct way for doing the takbir. The third part is qiyam, which is standing upright. We all know that when you do the prayer, you must be in a standing position unless you are physically unable to stand. Meaning, if you can stand, but it's just causing you minor discomfort, you still must stand whilst you are doing the prayer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and stand before Allah devoutly obedient. Next is qira'ah, which is the recitation, saying the necessary words during the salah. We know that we have to recite Surah Al-Hamd, Surah Al-Fatiha, and one other complete surah, such as, for example, Surah Al-Ikhlas, which is highly recommended to read. These are obligatory, wajib, for you to read in the first two rak'ahs of the daily prayers. And in the final one or two rak'ah, depending on which prayer you are doing, you can either recite Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Hamd, or you can recite the Tasbihat al-Arba'a, which is Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. And you should read that one 3 times over. Alaykum as-salam. Allah says in the Quran, recite what is easy from the Quran. The fifth critical component of the salah is the ruku', which is bowing down. In every single rak'ah, the person must do the ruku' by bending forward so that his hands are placed on his knees. And whilst his hands are placed on his knees, he should recite the dhikr. For example, the most common one, the one in which I'm sure we all read, is Subhana Rabbil Azim wa bihamdi. And we should do this at least one time whilst we are in the position of ruku'. And this, as is all the other ones, is a fundamental pillar of the salah. Now, if a person is in ruku' and he intentionally, meaning on purpose, raises his head up into a standing position, whilst he is still saying the dhikr, is his salah valid? No, his salah is not valid. However, if he is in the ruku' and he stands up whilst he is still saying the dhikr and he does it by accident or he does it inadvertently, then the salah is still valid. But we should be extremely careful to not rush the salah. We can do the salah in a normal, neutral manner. It does not have to be very slow, but we should not rush it. Because when we rush it, what happens? Subhana Rabbil Azim wa bihamdi, and we stand up before we have finished, and therefore the salah might become invalid or not accepted. The sixth component is the most crucial and the most critical component of the salah, and that is the sujood. the prostration on the ground towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are two prostrations which are wajib in every single rak'ah that we do. And when we do the sujood, there must be 7 parts of our body which are on the floor whilst we are doing it and whilst we are saying the necessary dhikr. The body parts which must do sujood is the forehead, the palms of both of your hands, both of your knees, and both of your big toes on each foot. Some people neglect it. Whilst they're doing the sujood and whilst they're reading it, they may lift their leg up, their knee up, or they lift their hand off the ground. It's not acceptable to do that. All these 7 parts must be on the ground. And it is mustahab, it is recommended that our nose also touches, preferably the turba, which is on the ground in front of us as well. When it comes to the sujood and when you are doing the sajda, your forehead must be touching something natural and man-made. It must be placed on something such as a piece of clay or dirt, which you all know is a turba. Or, if you do not have the turba, you can use things such as wood, paper in some instances, or even stone. Anything which cannot be eaten or cannot be worn is something which is acceptable to do the sujood on as long as it is natural. And when it comes to the turba, of course, the best turba to have is the one which contains the clay from the holy land of Karbala. Why? We see that our brothers in Ahlul Sunnah, for example, pray on the carpet, whereas we do not pray on the carpet. Our salah, in our opinion, is not valid if it is done with the sujood on the carpet. The reason for this is that we have narrations from Rasulullah where he tells us, and where his companions tell us, that he prayed on nothing except the clay or on the dirt or on the soil. And Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam confirms it again to us. He says that sujood is not allowed except on the earth or what grows from the earth, except for what is eaten or what is worn. Now when we're in sujood, we do the dhikr, which is Subhana Rabbil A'la wa bihamdi. When we're in the sujood, again, the same as the ruku', if somebody is doing the dhikr of the sajda, he's going down to the sajda. Before his head touches the turba, he starts to recite Subhanallah. Is this allowed? Is the salah valid? No. Unless whilst he is fully in the position of the sajda, he recites the whole dhikr again. Meaning, if this is the turba in front of me, and I go down, Subhana Rabbil A'la is not accepted. Unless when it comes to my forehead, I repeat it again, Subhana Rabbil A'la. This is extremely important. With the sujood, the most important piece of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you cannot rush it. You cannot be in a rush to get the act over with and done. Our narrations say that if people knew the value which the sujood has, then they would never take their head off of the floor. And so we shouldn't rush it. And if we are careless and reckless and we start doing the dhikr before our head touches the ground, or we lift our head up whilst we are still speaking, then our salah is not valid. If the person intentionally raises his head from sujood whilst he is still speaking the words, again, the prayer is not valid. If a person by accident says the dhikr of the sajda before the forehead touches the ground, and before he lifts his head back up from the sajda, he realizes that he made this mistake, then he must remain still in the position of sajda and repeat the dhikr again. If whilst the person is saying the dhikr and he intentionally raises one of the 7 parts of his body off of the ground, and this is inconsistent with what the requirements are for the prayer to be valid, then the whole prayer becomes invalid. So do not throw away the entire salah because you're in a rush to take your head from the ground. Make sure that you place your head on the ground, and when all 7 parts have reached the ground, then you start the dhikr. Subhana Rabbil A'la wa bihamdi. Then pause, make sure that you have said everything you need to say, and then take your head and your other body parts off the ground. Something which is very common and is very dangerous is when we are in the position of the sujood, some men have their elbows touching the ground and they have their whole forearms on the ground. I'll have to show you an example of what it is. If the man is in the sujood and he does it like this, it is not acceptable. The elbow should be off the ground, especially shabab should watch. When they do the sujood, it should be like this, not like this, because that is for the women. And of course we are not women, so we have to do the sujood properly. Otherwise, we are doing one of the key components of the salah incorrectly. Women are opposite. Women must keep their arms close to the body and have the elbow and the forearms on the floor. And whilst we are doing the sajda, it is mustahab that we keep our eyes open. And it is makruh that we keep our eyes closed when we're in the position of sujood. There are some explanations for this, so that we can see the ground in which we came from and the ground in which we will return to, and so that we are fully aware of this experience of sajda towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next component is the tashahhud and the salam. In English, it would be the testimony and the salutation. So after the second rak'ah, or after the final rak'ah of the prayer, the person must sit and recite the tashahhud, which is the testimony of the oneness, the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the messengership of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Prophet Muhammad. It is mustahab that when you are in the position on your knees and you are doing the tashahhud, that your hands are placed on your thighs. The fingers should be close together and you should look down at your lap. Meaning, if you're doing the tashahhud and the salam, your hands should not be round here. Your hands should not be folded like that. Your hands should not be like that. It should be on your thighs with the fingers close together. Again, important part. We have to be respectful of the laws and the rules of the salah which we are doing for Allah. The salah must have tartib and muwallad, meaning a sequence and a continuity. Therefore, each of the pillars and each of the stages of the salah should be clearly defined and they should be done in the correct order and in the correct sequence. Continuity means that you do each action one after the other in time. For example, if one has read the qunut and they have finished, they should not stay for 1 or 2 minutes before they do the takbir. As soon as they have done the qunut, they should go straight into the takbir and continue the prayer. It is not advisable, it's makruh, to read the prayer very slowly. And it is also not allowed to read the prayer very quickly either. We should have a neutral ground. Lastly, we have the qunut. The qunut, of course, in all of the wajib and the mustahab prayers, we are told we should do the qunut. It is a mustahab action on the second ruku', after the second rak'ah. And it is recommended in the qunut that when you raise your hands up, you raise it in front of you with your palms facing upwards. Your fingers, except the thumb, should be together. So not like this, but like this. And you should look up slightly towards the sky when you're doing the qunut. One of the important things which we see a lot of the time people doing is when they are in their daily prayer, for example, Salat al-Dhuhr or Salat al-Maghrib, after they do the qunut, they do this. But the ulama tell us that doing this after the qunut is makruh. Nowhere is it told to us that we should do it. And we have narrations which say that a person should not wipe their face after doing the qunut. Therefore, it's especially important to remember that based on last week, we should try and avoid all of the makruh actions and do the mustahab actions. Now there are certain things which invalidate the prayer. Some of them we went over already, but there are other things which are important to realize as well. If somebody breaks their wudu whilst they are doing the salah, or before the salah of course, such as if they pass wind, if they pass urine, or if they fall asleep, then the prayer becomes invalid and the prayer is not accepted. Secondly, if somebody turns their chest or even their head away from the Qibla, this potentially can cause the prayer to be invalid. If somebody is standing in the prayer and he turns his neck so that he can see even slightly of what is behind him, then his prayer is considered invalid. However, if he turns his head just slightly and he cannot see what is behind him, then it is okay, but it is makruh, meaning you shouldn't be looking around during your salah. When you are praying, you should be fully focused on the ground in front of you and not looking up, or especially not looking back. If someone turns their body like this, then the salah is not valid. The third thing which breaks is speaking intentionally, meaning speaking words which are not the surahs or the words which you have to read during the prayer. However, if you accidentally speak a word by mistake, then the prayer is not invalid. You should simply return to the prayer. But I don't see how it's possible for an individual to start talking randomly during the salah anyway. Fourth thing which breaks it, laughing out loud. If someone starts giggling whilst they are doing the salah, invalid. If they smile, it is okay, but again, it is makruh. Eating and drinking. Again, I do not know if it is possible for someone to start eating during the salah, but if they do, then the prayer is invalid. And if somebody performs an action which breaks the form of the prayer, then this makes the entire prayer invalid. Meaning, if you are praying with your hands by your side and all of a sudden you decide to put your hands like this during the salah, then it's invalid. Because you are breaking one of the rules of how the prayer should be done. Lastly, one of the common questions which gets asked is about reciting Surah Al-Fatiha and the loudness of the voice when they read Surah Al-Fatiha. It is wajib and it is obligatory for men to recite Surah Al-Fatiha and all of the chapters or the surahs in the prayer, in the morning prayer, in the Maghrib prayer, and in the Isha prayer. And if they intentionally do not recite the surahs out loud and they know that they should be doing it in these prayers, then their salah is invalid. It's not accepted. Meaning that when we do these prayers, Maghrib and Isha, we need to do Surah Al-Fatiha and the other surah out loud. We don't need to shout it, but it needs to be audible for us to hear. However, if a person is unaware of this law or this ruling, and he does it by mistake, he says it quietly or he does not say it out loud at all during the Maghrib and Isha prayers, then the prayer is still accepted. But he should know. And now you have received this news, you will know, so there is no excuse for not doing it. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the knowledge to learn the intricacies and the laws and the rules of our salah. Why? Because it is our direct connection to our Lord, to our Creator. And when we perform the salah correctly, and when we have the presence of our hearts during this action, and we are adhering to all of its rules, then Allah will see it as a sign of love from us towards Him. He will see it as a sign of submission from us towards Him, and it will be a sign of adherence to the actions and to the rituals which Rasulullah and his Ahlul Bayt had taught for us to do. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our prayers and to make us amongst those who are constant in their salah, and to keep us away from the idea of missing our salah or delaying our salah beyond the prescribed times. And of course we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant victory to the mu'mineen and the mujahideen and the mazlumeen. And we ask you to recite Surah Al-Fatiha after salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.